Unimaginable does not even begin to describe the scenes that have been coming out of Syria the past 2 days. And we have to warn you, many of the pictures you're about to see are hard to look at. The worst part, this is now the second time we're seeing images like these from this region. Signs are pointing to a chemical attack carried out by the Syrian government, which has killed more than 70 people, many of them women and children. When asked about the attack yesterday, the White House spokesman had this to say.
These heinous actions by the Bashar al-Assad regime are a consequence of the past administration's weakness and irresolution.
That blame was echoed word for word in a statement from his boss, Donald Trump. But after a series of condemnations from just about everyone on both sides of the aisle, today Donald Trump appeared to have turned a corner.
I will tell you, it's already happened, that my attitude toward Syria and Assad has changed very much. I now have responsibility, and I will have that responsibility and carry it very proudly. When you kill innocent children, innocent babies, little babies, with a chemical gas that is so lethal, people were shocked to hear what gas it was. That crosses many, many lines, beyond the red line, many, many lines.
Joining me are Middle East and North Africa consultant Nasser Wadadi. It's good to see you again. And Carol Savitz, she's a senior advisor at MIT's Security Studies program. Thanks for being here, too. During the campaign, Donald Trump said things like, it's not our problem. Removal of Assad is not a priority. We know what our position is on refugees. Today, you just heard him say his attitude has changed as a result of recent events. Could either of you explain to me what you think United States policy is towards Syria today? Do you have any idea what it is?
I have no clue, but I think that because Trump was trying to cozy up to Russia, one of the issues is that Russia's been backing Assad all along, and so sort of saying, well, wanting Assad to go doesn't necessarily help, further that relationship with
that bromance. Some people call it Putin,
with Putin. But I think that the horrific pictures, as you said in your intro, for coming out of Syria in the last couple of days has really put Trump on the spot. And to think that yesterday we were backing Assad, or we didn't care whether he was there or not. Well, today we have to say, Trump said it himself.
Do you have any idea what the policy is? Can you read between the lines?
Yeah, my understanding of the policy as it stood until yesterday was like basically President Trump's Syria campaign is a continuation of the Obama policy, which is to divide Syria into spheres of influence, cede the part that has Bashar al-Assad to the Russians and the Iranians, try not to interfere with that, and then focus on the part that has ISIS. That was the policy until yesterday, and of course it's a failed policy. We know that from the result. The Obama administration, however, set the parameters that, even though that Trump spent his campaign attacking them, until yesterday, he in effect continued the same policy.
Well, speaking of Obama, we've all seen this many times. This is from August 20th, 2012, the infamous red line comment. Here's President Obama.
A red line for us is we start seeing a whole bunch of chemical weapons moving around or being utilized. We have communicated in no uncertain terms with every player in the region that's a red line for us, and that there would be enormous consequences.
You know, Carol, even though I think it was beyond crass for both Sean Spicer and the president to be targeting his predecessor, stepping back from the crassness, there's some merit to Trump's criticism, is there not? That essentially Barack Obama, by not acting, he made a threat, didn't back it up, helped create this vacuum in which this happened, no?
I think that Obama was caught. I think the first time the chemical weapons were used, we were horrified, all the appropriate rhetoric. Obama sort of tried to get some kind of a coalition going, but when the British Parliament voted against any kind of British action, I don't think Obama had any choice but to, in effect, back down.
But he should have known that. I mean, the assumption is you don't make threats like that.
But remember that Vladimir Putin basically saved us that time. He went in and said, okay, we'll do it together and everything else, and we thought that they had most of the chemical weapons out of the country. I think Putin's in trouble now, too, because this is such a horrific act. People are Russians are being killed, Russian military are being killed in Syria. The caskets are starting to come home. People understand Crimea in Moscow and St. Petersburg, but they don't understand Syria.
Well, by the way, the attacks in St. Petersburg the other day, at least most news reports suggest it's because of his support for Assad that has happened.
Well, they know that there are between 3,000 and 10,000 Russian citizens or former Soviet citizens fighting there, and when they went in, Putin said, we're going in to prevent them from coming back home.
Can we stay on history for just one more minute? When Donald Trump during the campaign said things like, it's not my problem, does that not embolden people like Assad, who knows he's pretty much going to get a free ride, whether it's a continuation of the Obama policy or not?
The interesting thing is that the day before yesterday, the United States said officially that in the Security Council and also via the State Department, that the removal of Bashar al-Assad and his fate are no longer U.S. priorities.
I understand, but doesn't that embolden somebody
absolutely.
like him?
Well, I don't think it's a coincidence that it's
you don't
the
think
next
it's
day. No, I don't think it's a coincidence
at all. Speaking
at all.
of next day and how things change overnight, Nikki Haley, who's the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, says today, if the 15-member Security Council of the UN will not act, quote, we are compelled to take our own action.
Actually,
what does that mean?
They corrected that statement.
Oh, what did she say?
They kind of took it back. They said that some nations sometimes are compelled to take action.
What was like an abstract, theoretical comment?
An abstract, theoretical.
I think he's going to find himself in the same position that Obama was.
Meaning
what exactly are we going to do
about this? Well, let's talk about
this?
forget what he's doing. What should he be doing?
Recognize the reality of Syria.
Which is what?
The reality of Syria that you have Bashar al-Assad, who's part of a regime that's been ruling the country since 1963, who is hated by the main component of his population, and they want him gone. And he has been a magnet, attracting all sorts of terrorists.
So what are you saying? So regime change has got to be part of the Trump agenda?
It's not even a matter of regime change. It's like, listen to the Syrian people.
Fine. So you listen to them. How do you get from here to there, particularly when Putin still seems to be supporting
and Iran?
You put a price on this.
What does that mean?
And the price is that, like, the Iranians need to face the music for the actions of Bashar al-Assad. The Russians themselves.
Or what happens?
Exactly. That's the job of the leader of the free world to decide. The or needs to be a consequence, a tangible one. I'm not saying that it could be a military strike, but there are a whole lot of options. And don't forget, the Russians are hurting from the sanctions. Their GDP lost $1 trillion within 2 years.
Sanctions that Donald Trump, as candidate, was talking about weakening, I should say. But you're nodding in agreement, but it sounds to me that he's talking about drawing another red line. Is that not what, I mean, that is what you're saying.
Well, he drew several ones in his rhetorical
Donald Trump.
To
Yeah.
Trump.
Do you agree with this?
He crossed him.
Do you agree with this?
I'm caught because on the one hand, I don't know who the good guys and who the bad guys are in Syria, and that's been one of our problems all along.
Well, there's no doubt about Assad being the bad guy.
Self-inflicted, I must point out.
What does that mean?
It means that basically the way the Obama administration want about like selecting people and building alliances in Syria.
So you don't know who the bad guys are.
But I'd like to ask you, I mean, I see that one of the possibilities actually is some kind of soft partition of Syria.
Yeah, that's not going to work because, interestingly, the one thing that there are two irredentist players in the Syrian conflict today. That happens to be ISIS and the Kurdish YPG.
Right.
Everyone else, including the rebels, even Bashar al-Assad, agree. Like the one thing they agree on is no partition in Syria.
Okay, one last thing here. Unless I was going to say Barack Obama, unless Donald Trump can cut a deal with Vladimir Putin on this, assuming that this dissatisfaction, this contempt, this hatred for Assad is so central. Unless he cuts a deal with Putin where Putin backs off his support of Assad, nothing works. Is that not a fair statement?
What's the trade-off?
I don't know. I'm asking you what is the trade-off?
What do we give Putin? Do we give him Crimea?
What do we do?
Well, that's the question. I mean, we have staked out territory that says we will not recognize the annexation of Crimea. We want Russian troops pulled out of the Donbass, the eastern part of Ukraine. One of the reasons I think Putin went in was hoping that he would get Ukraine, in effect, in return for some kind of cooperation with us. And Obama didn't bite. The question now is, will Trump bite? But I'm not sure Trump can cut any deal because with all the back channel stuff about the Trump relationship or the Trump campaign relationship with Russia, I don't think he can cut a deal.
I have a slightly different angle. The Russians want a foot in the Middle East, and the greatest achievement of the end of the Cold War and the leadership of President Bush back then was to kick Russia out of the Middle East. The trade-off is that you don't get a right to set foot in Syria or anywhere else in the Middle East. We'll get you out of there unless you cooperate. You want to be an empire, you want to have access to the Mediterranean, sit down and play ball.
You two should replace Steve Bannon on the National Security Council. Carol Savitz, great to see you.
Thank you.
Nasser Boudadi, great to see you as
Pleasure.
well. Thank you.